Really, Krett? Oh my god.
Oh, your mic wasn't live yet. Gotcha, bitch.
Well, you're such a piece of shit.
Yeah, I turned my mic live before you. No, I just lied to you. That's what I did. What up, guys? I'm Krett. I made F. look like an idiot again. It's a great start to the show. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing worse than I was before you tricked me. That's for sure. You're such a piece of garbage.
Yeah, I know.
Oh well. I'm actually doing really splendid. I have horchata, so I have a tasty beverage.
Tastes like candles.
It doesn't actually at all. It tastes. I mean, it's rice milk, cinnamon, and vanilla. It says, you know what it actually tastes like? Cinnamon toast crunch leftover milk.
That's actually what I made for breakfast, kind of. Well, I made cinnamon French toast.
That's absolutely nothing like what
cinnamon French toast is kind of like cinnamon toast crunch. Cinnamon toast crunch was an attempt at turning cinnamon French toast into cereal, and they succeeded. It's great.
They did.
Yeah.
But now I got horchata, which is just better than everything.
All right. Well, you know what we just had that was better than everything that's came before it was the summer split of the SPL. His brain hurts because of that horrible, horrible segue, but let's talk about it.
That segue was so rough, but yeah.
Yeah, man. It was a good split. I think EU was the most surprising, but both of them had a little bit of a similar storyline on the top end.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, as far as the small picture is concerned, if you guys didn't catch the last bit of the summer split, everything's all solidified. 3 teams, since we're 8 teams in each region, 3 teams per are coming to land. AFK, Cloud9, TSM in North America. Duh. And Titan, Fnatic, Paradigm, previously Trig. A little less duh, but a lot of duh.
Right. It was the sort of thing where, like, there was potential for some upsets. London Conspiracy had a shot, Denial had a shot. They didn't make it.
Epsilon had a shot. I was looking at Epsilon real hard for EU.
But either way, it didn't quite happen. I think the other notable thing is you had a front runner in the start of the split for both regions, Fnatic and Cloud9, and in the end they actually ended up in second place. Tied for second place.
Mm-hmm.
And that had to do with losses that maybe shouldn't have happened. The two, and I think that's more in like EU, right? Like Fnatic lost to the bottom seeded team in the region, Upcoming Stars, and they really couldn't have allowed that to happen. Whereas like Cloud9 lost to Eager, and that was just sort of like, well, they probably shouldn't have. That was just sort of something that should have happened, and that was in both cases though. It was the underdog team playing up.
Exactly. That was a big thing I was going to slap you if you forgot to mention that Upcoming Stars, when they beat Fnatic, so both Fnatic and Paradigm lost to Upcoming Stars. They're the 2 in the 2-12 for the inarguably worst team in Europe. When they played Paradigm, when Upcoming Stars played Paradigm, it wasn't, and I'll have to make this distinction, I feel like, until the day I die. Paradigm played weird picks, not to troll, but to try different strategies out against a lesser opponent, which is that is how you do things at a high level of play. That's not disrespectful, XYZ. When Upcoming Stars beat Fnatic, Fnatic was playing their normal game. Stars just played real well. And that's what we saw with Eager versus Cloud9. Your team just actually won.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that's important to note in the difference between the Night's Watch and Upcoming Stars is that Night's Watch won the 2-0'd the head-to-head series. I think both those teams are close. I'd still say Upcoming Stars is the better team based on who they beat.
Really?
Yeah, based on who they beat. I think they beat better teams than Night's Watch did.
I agree with that as far as win-loss is concerned. And this is interesting because Upcoming Stars had their season 2, their sophomore album in the summer split. Because what happened was at the end, like It was a 5-week split in the springtime. Week 4 or week 3. Week 4, I think it was, there was a roster change, which became the stars that we know that people started to have faith in. Before, they were just a trash team, really, like objectively speaking, before they did their roster swap. And now they actually had some sort of faith behind them. The Night's Watch weren't a trash team, but they just weren't winning. Their roster swap came 2 weeks ago at the end of the summer split, so that's the beginning. We have to see their sophomore album come in fall. You know what I mean? So Upcoming Stars already did this. The Night's Watch get to do it next split. I think post roster change for the Night's Watch, they looked like a stronger team than Upcoming Stars.
And speaking of Upcoming Stars, they're going to have a tough path ahead of them since their Hunter Hi-Rez, one of their stronger players, left to join Dignitas. So now you're left with a team that has a tough road ahead of them and no synergy.
And that, I see what you did there. Yeah. And that's the problem. So, like, synergy, I don't think is the issue as much of a platitude as
well, it's going to be to some extent because, first of all, everything's changing, which we'll get to later. And second of all, they now need a new person to change everything with.
Right. And, I mean, I'll be realistic. No synergy is an easy platitude to lean on as a commentator when you can't just say this team sucks.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it gets overused. But I think that coming into watching Upcoming Stars, Hi-Rez was not... He wasn't a player that I really, saw doing anything good. Straight up. I did not think he was a good choice for Hunter. I thought he was clearly the worst choice around. And this split, he has really grown. And this is sort of like... I don't think Hi-Rez is at the level of Cyclone Spin. I'm not implying that. But it's sort of a similar path that Cyclone Spin took. Cyclone was on a below-average team, played very well, and learned how to become this transcendent player, and then essentially upgraded to AFK. I think that Hi-Rez has learned how to play at an SPL level on Upcoming Stars, and he's not this transcendent player to really be talking about the best hunter in Europe, but he's definitely become a lot better than the rest of his squad.
He's also just like, I don't want to say he's upgrading by that much, right? He's going from 212 to 410.
Very true. Yeah.
And I think even those slash lines don't really say enough. He's going from the team that made relegations, or the team that got relegated, to a team that almost got relegated. That's not that much of an improvement, right?
I mean, how do you feel about Dig? Looking at
well, they dropped Young Bay, so... Oh no, I said it. Oh no. They don't have their Hunter anymore. They don't have Young Bay anymore. And now they just have to replace the 4 other players who have a decent team.
Are we still live? Are we still connected?
You're not even responding to what I just said. That was incredibly BM. I was really hoping. I said they replaced Young Bay. Now they just have to replace the 4 other players.
Ooh.
I
like Shadow Nightmare.
No. I actually think they're good. I just wanted to say that because it's hilarious. I think Dig is a team that hasn't found its thing. Like,
yes,
it just doesn't have a thing. Whereas all Trig has a thing, Fnatic has a thing, Titan has a thing. Dig doesn't.
What are examples of these things that you're talking about?
Well, Paradigm has Achilles Spear. Fnatic has Vulcan Jungle. And Titan has ADCs in both their side lanes. No, well, the Titan one's correct. I think Fnatic is just has really, really good calling because of reels and really good leadership. And Paradigm is tenured and innovative.
Yes.
And Epsilon's super aggressive, and Lund Conspiracy's unpredictable, and I don't know what the fuck Team Dignitas is.
That exactly the identity of.
Oh, and Epsilon has players banned.
But no. I'm with you. Identity is really what Team Dignitas has been lacking. I mean, even on the North American side, you take a look, and the identity of AFK is they are a superstar team. They set up Cyclone Spin. You look at Cloud9, and they are
a setup team. They set up everyone.
Right. They're a setup team. You look at Team Solo Maiden, they're the individual outplay team, right? They're just better than you in all positions. All these teams have a...
And it keeps going, actually, I think, further down in NA, right? Like, Denial's the early game surprised you with some stuff, Cheese team. I think Eager is a farming team. I think Carrots is a mid-focus team. Yeah, it's like mid-jungle.
It's a mid-jungle bond team, and Cognitive and Enemy haven't developed that identity,
Yeah, exactly.
which is sort of why they're at where they're at on the bottom. And I mean, it's these identities of these teams. If we were playing a TCG, this would be the win condition, right? Like that's what these teams try to set up. And so Dignitas hasn't really had a for sure win condition on their side for a while. I mean, you take a look at it definitely wasn't Variety for a long time, and it still isn't. I guess you would say it's sort of mid-jungle bond between Shadow Knight, because Shadow Nightmare performs well and Frostiac performs well, but then you have aggressive support from Frezzo. It's been very strange. So
they could just end up being like Epsilon 2.
Sure.
Like, hey, look, we're really aggressive, and we're going to go be aggressive at you.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, if I look at this team, that's what I would expect, especially considering Variety, who isn't as bad as he was when he started, if I do say so myself, plays backliners instead of frontliners in the solo lane, which is not so traditional right now. He's playing Uller and carries, really, but does so in a different way than Cyclone Spin. So probably just Gas Pedal is their identity, especially when it comes to Hi-Rez, who's really solidified himself as a 1v1 player. So I think that's what Dignitas has to do with this Hi-Rez player. They need to find the identity, and they don't have. So there's a month till LAN that they're not playing in. There's a while till relegations, which they're not playing in. What this team Dignitas needs to do, they need to just. Team Dignitas needs to be the team that finds out the hot way to start, or
and
whatever.
That also depends on their scrim partner.
Right.
I think last I heard it was London Conspiracy, but I'm not sure. No, it was Stars, I think. I'm not sure. Either way, it depends on their scrim partner. Like, they need a good scrim partner to innovate as well and sort of figure out what's going on.
Yeah, but what I mean by that, Krett, is that they need to put in tons of hours just playing with their new hunter to really like figure out what the hell they're about. That's really their job in the next 4 weeks, is to come into the fall split with this question answered. We just went down the line of all of these teams giving an identity, and Dignitas is one of 3 that don't have an identity. Even Night's Watch and Stars have an identity, right? And Dignitas without that, that's their big problem. So that's problematic for me coming into Team Dignitas. I don't think they got better this split, which is what everybody was hoping.
Yeah, I think they just sort of treaded water, which was unfortunate. I don't know. I mean, the SPL was pretty cool. That LAN at the end of the week was pretty cool, and
I actually wanted to get your opinion on that, because I love that sort of thing. I had somebody tell me like, "Oh well, who cares if it was a LAN? Like it was just a regular season game." But I thought it was a cool way to end the season, considering there's 3-4 weeks between like the actual LAN. Do you think it was just unnecessary? Do you think it was fun?
It was cool. I think the charity event was cool. I think it being LAN didn't add much to the game. I also think those weren't like... It was cool that Cyclone got a penta and then got an almost penta, but at the same time, those weren't the sort of games you're like, man, I wish those had been at LAN. Like, those weren't the games out of the season that I think were the most hype.
I agree. There were some more. There were definitely some more interesting games. Cloud9 versus AFK is they're 2 exciting teams that we want to play.
Like if you looked at the schedule and you're like, all right, let's pick 2 teams to go to LAN in the split. It's Cloud9 AFK. It just unfortunately, I don't think Cloud9 was as prepared as AFK was.
I mean, I was talking to some of the players after the games, and a lot of what they said, I will keep private. But
yeah, totally.
The way that they said it is really what got me. There was some... I mean, Cloud9 is famous for being the team with Stealth and Barracuda. Like, they're happy-go-lucky guys, right? Nobody wants to lose. They're going to LAN anyway. But there were definitely feelings hurt, and attitudes changed for more than just we lost a game. there was a lot more upset than you might expect. And I think that has to do with AFK beat them the first time to go to LAN, and that sucked. It was the first time Cloud9 missed LAN in a while. And coming through, it's sort of like, well, that was a fluke. Clearly, with a better team, we're going to do it.
Yeah, that
this
was
time.
supposed to be their revenge, and it was not.
Right. And it wasn't. And it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Getting pentakilled, it really wasn't. It was the opposite of what Cloud9 could have asked for. And they were just very dejected after the game. We had gone to the local watering hole after the fact, and Cloud9 played it very professional. They didn't come out. They sort of just stuck around and hung out. That's been their jam since launch, back when they were COG. They've always sort of been very inclusive, but the feeling in the air around those Cloud9 guys was not good. So they're definitely very upset, and I think that they're going to be very angry when it comes to the real LAN.
Well, we'll see what happens down the road, and I guess that brings the next question is, there has been an announcement from Hi-Rez as to whether this LAN will be played on the current patch or some future patch or on the last patch of the SPL, and that's kind of a big question.
That's a huge question. Yeah, the only thing solidified right now is Challenger Cup is on the new patch, which,
well, I mean, it's this weekend.
Right. That's on the new patch.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, as a player, as a coach, as a player, how do you feel? Because so we've talked a little bit about major content patches mid-split, and we don't like them.
Yeah.
Now, this is sort of a Ross and Rachel, we were on a break situation.
Right.
Where the split's over, but the LAN pertaining to the split isn't. So, are we dating or are we not? Is the summer split is the summer final LAN part of the summer split? How do you feel personally?
The summer final LAN, I could tell you what should happen. What should happen is that professional players have access to something like a test server, a tournament server, call it. They can scrim on it. They can play on it. They could solo queue ranked on live, and then the LAN is played on the last patch. And so you're keeping the pro players on a stable patch, on a tournament server patch, all the way through the split, and then at the end you can roll them forward or like minor patches or whatever. But Challenger Cup and the summer finals should not be played on anything but the last patch of the SPL. Mostly because this patch is whack.
Well, all right. Let's pretend.
No, if the patch was just like Death's Toll has 5 less physical power and
so you're
Gold
talking,
Fury gives you 20 less gold, like, let it fly. But this patch is just too drastic.
So you're talking impact, not necessarily a patch that has favorable change. So if it was
impact, yeah.
If it was a large impact patch with favorable changes, you would still be against it.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah, it's impact and it's also stability, right? Like, it's like making sure that the tournament server patch is like the last patch was something like 2.808 or something, right? 0.0.0, I don't know. Then you could have like 2.808.0.1 for the tournament server where they fix a bug with Janice or something. Okay. Where like you put a bug fix in just so that like it's the last stable patch. It's literally what you do when you go download like OBS, right? They're like, here's the beta patch, here's the last stable release. Literally that.
The what patch?
I'm beta. I don't know. Shut up.
It sounded like, this is the better one, and this is the worst one. You gotta go with the better patch.
No.
Beta
like,
patch.
the beta patch and then the stable release. That's basically, like, how it probably should be in a perfect world.
Right. Okay. That's fair. One of the cooler things I find about... one of the cooler things I like about esports compared to traditional sports is the fact that you have to adapt and overcome.
Sure.
And I've maintained that I think that a certain level, and it's sort of like pornography. I can't tell you what it is, but I know it when I see it. I can't tell you what the exact line is of too drastic, but Nothing too drastic mid-split. Now, with the LAN as an end cap to the split, I'm honestly kind of torn. I'm not sure if I'm more on the side of, like, leave it alone, let the players end the split with the way they did, and that I kind of lean towards that way. But I'm not fully committed because...
Well, I think it also depends on what the LAN is for. If the LAN is for Worlds, it damn well better be on the patch we've been playing for 3 months.
Right, because that sort of like solidifies... that's the end cap to the regular season, if you will. So, and that's where you want to see. We always talked about how it's not largely about seeing the best teams win or get there. Sometimes it's just about the best performing team at the moment, which is an awkward statement. But that's what I feel like the end of the year going to Worlds should be the best teams, and that is from practice on the same patch. Now, because it's the summer final LAN, it is important. It's money, first of all, which matters a lot to SPL players, which is pretty cool, even though the reason isn't very cool. But it also is seeding to go into the fall. So there is a reason.
Well, wait.
Played.
What does seeding do in an SPL? How is seeding even remotely relevant?
Right. Well, it's really not at all. But
it's okay,
money,
go.
I guess it's just about the money, I guess. And it's like a little bit more than fun. There is a reason that you do it. It sets you up. It gets you away from relegations. It gives you extra money. So the LAN is just barely above exhibition.
Yeah, it's like exhibition with actual qualifiers.
Right. So because that's the scenario that the summer final LAN presents itself in, I'm okay with it being on a new patch. In fact, that almost makes it exciting.
I'm okay with it being on a new patch. I'm just not okay with it being on this patch. I think what you're saying is like like because of the way the thing is where it's sort of exhibition-y, like the impact threshold can be higher. The patch can have more impact. There is still a limit, right?
Okay.
Like the LAN should not be played on a patch where you remove Conquest.
Yeah. Now, shout out to Allied. Allied put out a video, and as a side note, Allied put out the video talking about is Smite too hard, and he's been playing a lot of heroes, and mentioned in fun conversation, what if like Smite was like Call of Duty, where you play best out of 3, one of them's Conquest, one of them's Siege, one of them's Assault. I was like, stop, Allied, what are you talking about? Now,
especially because of the different numbers of players. So you just have like one dude sit out for Siege?
Yeah, dude. I mean,
no, you know what you do is you do Conquest, then Siege, then 3v3 Joust, then 2v2 Assault, then 1v1 Joust.
Fix your team.
Yeah, there you go. Just cutting down.
But so, I mean, it's an interesting thought experiment, and I don't know. The summer final LAN, because of how, I don't want to say how little it means, but because of the scenario that it presents itself in, I kind of think it's fine. And in fact, I kind of really think it's fine. Because it forces players to actually care.
Have you played on live, though?
I have. And it's a shit show.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fair. Which is fine. Because it's a really drastic change, which is interesting. And what we get out of a summer final LAN, 4 weeks of practice. Coach Krett of Team Eager is 4 weeks of practice on a drastically game-changing patch like the one that went in today, enough to solidify a strategy that you feel confident in.
Oh, yeah. Assuming there's not going to be a follow-up patch. But there will be. Like,
there will be?
It would be really dumb to not patch Smite the way it is right now. Because nobody has any idea what the fuck is going on, and it's going to ruin the Conquest player base. Like, this is just going back to Ally's video, right? Like, it's too fucking complex. I play it, I look at it, and I'm like, I've been playing this game for 3 years. I've invented multiple Hunter builds. I have no fucking idea what to do.
And so what's that? In fact, that's exactly what Allied was talking about.
No, you don't, Dare. You have no idea what to do.
That conversation about Smite being too hard was because there was a predetermined, pre-described method of doing things that you just need to sort of know. Whereas in this change, the opposite. There is no predetermined.
No, there definitely is. We just don't know it yet.
Right, and eventually it will be.
But then it's just based on like the internalization of knowing the sorts of things that are good, and that's even worse. That's like the players who sort of know how to get farm better than other players. You can't just copy pros anymore.
Exactly.
Like there's just no loophole for casuals. Because the loophole before was like, well, it's really complex, but you can copy pros. Now it's like,
do what you want.
People come into my AMA, they're like, how do we start? And I'm like, well, I've been doing this, but I don't know if that's the thing. Like,
sit up C brings the term that it's a soft reset essentially, which
it is,
I'm not
but it's a soft like.
I'm undecided if I like it or not.
The problem is that, like, there's a LAN in 4 weeks. There probably will be changes. Like, this patch got how many days of PTS, right? Like, maybe 6?
I thought it was a lot.
I don't know. Either way, not really that much, right? Like, for such drastic changes, I don't think it's been sufficiently tested. Partially because a lot of the pro players were still playing the regular season, so you're not going to go on the PTS. Because you can't, because you have to practice for the regular season. You have to practice for C9 versus AFK, right?
Agreed.
So then the patch goes live, and it just like it would be silly to believe that this won't get patched at all within the next 4 weeks.
Where do you see the patch is going?
What?
Mid-camps? Where do you see the patch like being fixed?
No, mid-camps aren't the issue. The issue is everything else. The issue is the side camps respawning too fast, the back RDs respawning too fast. 10-second mid-camps are just silly. Like, they're a chore. It's like when your mom tells you to set the table, make your bed, and mow the lawn, and you're like just trying to figure out which order to do that in to make her the least mad. That's the mid-camps right now. They're a chore, you know you have to do them, but you can't really figure out when you're supposed to fit them in between the other chores that you know you have to do.
Okay.
And that's really weird.
Alright. I mean, I've heard a lot of people that they're just not important enough to really prioritize.
Yeah, they kind of aren't, right? They give, like, basically slightly less gold and slightly less experience than a side camp. Side camp spawn on the same cooldowns, and they give buffs.
Yeah. Well,
so it's awkward. But like the point is that something has to be changed, or probably will be changed. Maybe it doesn't have to be changed. Maybe the meta will settle. I don't know, but like, I feel like something is going to be changed because this is really weird and probably not what was intended.
Like, so, I mean, I guess my concern or my thought process is you said there was only 6 days to test it.
Maybe, yeah.
In my opinion, that's a reason not to patch.
What do you mean?
There was only 6 days to test it. Today's day number 7. Like you said, things will just settle. Remember Sir Krett,
like,
how much she sucked?
No, yeah, but maybe it'll take 2 weeks and then we'll have another patch.
Suck.
Right, and
without a patch.
Maybe that. Well, no. But the thing is, everyone looked at Sir Krett and was like, "We're not good enough at her yet to make her good." Like every player that I knew was like, "This character's really good. I just can't play her yet."
Okay,
but
so
a lot of players are like either, I don't really get this at all, or this is really weird, or this is causing problems, or I think the big thing is, and this has happened with like every major change, right? For example, the Hunter changes. Remember the Twitter backlash from the Hunter changes, right? There was a consensus there, right? Like, the Hunter changes were announced, everyone was like, we don't really like this, and here's what should happen instead. There's no consensus. At all. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on.
Obviously, it just happened.
No, but like, even when other changes have just happened, there's a consensus.
Because they're smaller changes.
Right, well, these are huge drastic changes, but like, at the beginning of Season 2, like, I don't know. I think people. These are more drastic changes than the changes between season 1 and season 2.
I mean, so this is largely a philosophical question then.
I will answer that.
Is it better for a game to have a black and white best strategy than for
you need
the best
technical
strategy
versatility.
Than for the best strategy to be somewhere out there but undiscovered? Because that's where we're at.
But you're not
The
talking about a
last
strategy.
patch-
You're talking about a meta. And, like, a strategy is, like, something that a team employs, whereas a meta is sort of, like, the demands that you have to fulfill.
Oh, sure. I'll go with you. Even still. So I mean, like... Monopoly. Have you ever played Monopoly at do you know the super ins and outs of Monopoly?
No.
Do you have fun playing Monopoly?
No.
Fuck. But anyway, my analogy was in the sense that when you're playing Monopoly with your friends, regardless of the whole like meme, Monopoly's not fun, it takes too long, it makes everybody hate each other. It's largely fun. You roll the dice, you land on something, you might buy it, you might not, blah, 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 you play the game. Once you figure out which colors have the highest percentage to land on, which colors are the best bang for your buck or money-wise, you're just always going for light blue. You're always going for yellow. You're going to ignore the trains. And that fun element is taken out, and it's a race to those 3 colors to see who wins.
Yeah.
It's more fun to play at a lower level. I wish I didn't know that sound of Monopoly, so I could just fucking roll the dice and play. So, is the game, we're talking strictly fun here at the moment, is it more fun to say every single game we start 3 at red, leash it to mid, go to mid, clear blue, go to lane, on the other side, clear backs, speed, blue, lane, mid, etc.? Or is it more fun to say, well, we haven't figured out the optimal strategy yet, so our team does double jungle and clears all the buffs first. Your team does support and clears backs and mids, and then doubles back for the... Is it more fun to be diversified, or is it more fun to have a strict, this is what you do?
I think...
What is more fun?
I think diversification is more fun because of the nature of toxic players.
Right. So...
Oh, wait, sorry. Less fun because of the nature of toxic players. I think... Yes, players are more likely to get toxic if someone deviates from the meta in, like, a casual or whatever, but the meta, you just do it, and it's not a problem, right? Like, that's the thing you should do anyway, whereas in the current situation, I feel like if you're not 5-queuing, which I have been all day, if you're not 5-queuing and you do something, someone should just be like, what you're doing is wrong, I'm just gonna insta-lock Kretuhtuh jungle, and I'm jungling, and fuck you. And then they're gonna get, like, Hog Achilles Spear, and you're just screwed. Like, I feel like the diversification is going to lead to a larger number of toxic games.
But I thought a lot of the toxicity, or a lot of the... I thought the popular thought process was that the toxicity came from people not doing what the quote-unquote meta dictates.
Right, but now that same toxic person, now has an idea of what the meta dictates. Now they don't even have facts. They're just mad because somebody isn't doing what they think is good.
That person is always going to be problematic.
No. He's usually going to be problematic. I feel like if you just have a set meta, like, there's just so much less room to, like, for people to rage, because you just do the thing, and everyone does the thing, and it's fine. Whereas in this, it's just like, why did you do this thing? But, like, that worked for them 2 games in a row, and, like, I feel like that conversation isn't going to be constructive.
See, I'm the complete opposite. I feel like when a new player comes in and doesn't know the current meta, and they do it wrong, that they're absolutely wrong. And we talked about this 2 weeks ago, about how
I agree.
Rare it is for there to be something absolutely wrong. I mean, Jones Wrath on AMC might not even be absolutely wrong. Right? So... when there's right now, or previous patch, there was an absolutely wrong way to do the start of the game, meta. Now there isn't. That's got to be some sort of wiggle room. Because if I'm a meta defender, if I'm a knight of the meta watch, right, and I say, you got to fucking clear your red buff, you got to leash it to the mid laner, he's got to pick it up right at the edge, and you don't do it, I can rage. If I don't know what the hell's going on, and one game I start mid camps, next game you start back heartbeats, I go, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, I just won 7 games, and this is what Cyclone Spin does. And I go, but I just won 8 games, and this is what Laz's does.
And then they start BMing each other.
Or
I don't think there's
they learn
more.
from each other.
I
Or
don't
they
think
learn from each
so.
other.
I don't think that'll happen. Maybe I'm cynical in this regard. I don't know. But either way, like, I just don't think it's good to not know what the fuck is. Because not only is it a situation where, like, maybe there's a start you don't know about, it's a situation where you look at it and you don't even have a good idea.
So, how did we get to... So, how did we get to where we got to last patch?
Well, first of all, there was less to do, so it was easier to figure out. Right? Like,
Is that it?
initially, well, it just comes down to playing it a lot, but it also, like, was much easier to distill the meta out because there were so many, there were so many less things to do, right? Like, you look at the map and you're like, okay, purple, red, speed, blue. We want to take those at the start. What other things can we do to do it efficiently? And then you did find different ways to do that, right? There's like speed to blue to lane and red to purple to lane, and then like, jungler comes through and you do the backs, but you could also triple camp and you could triple camp both sides, and there's like stuff like that. Now there's an extra camp in there, and you have to be able to get back around quick because your side camps respawn at 3 minutes. Right. And mid camps also respawn 3 minutes, but it's also 3 minutes from when they were cleared, not 3 minutes from when they were taken. So what you do one game might not work the next game because it might not. The mid camp that you rotate to might not respawn because they didn't take it at 10 seconds. They took it at 35 seconds. So now it's just like I think the default is just like, I don't know where to go. I'm just gonna invade.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the high-level default, and what I would expect low-level players to do is just go to lane. Just look at the middle and be like, nope.
I mean, honestly, I've just been doing the old stuff.
Yeah, that's also what a lot of people have been doing, but it's like not the efficient way to do it.
Sure,
and it doesn't feel like it is.
will be found out.
I don't know about that.
Smite was released. When you played Smite on release? Did you play Smite on release?
Yeah.
Did you get the pamphlet?
No.
You didn't get the pamphlet?
No, I didn't get any pamphlets.
When you start Smite, when Smite first came out, didn't they ship it with a pamphlet telling you how to start the game?
No.
With the meta?
No, you know what we all did? We just walked in lane and auto-attacked lane. Forever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
For
and
some
then
reason,
eventually
I thought Smite came with a pamphlet.
No, and then but the difference is that you're assuming that everyone's bad at the game, which is how it was when Smite first came out. Is everyone was bad.
Okay.
So there's no one who like was expecting themselves to play at a higher level.
Right.
Good enough to, not even good enough to figure it out, but like there was no one who was established going to figure it out and stuff like that. Now that like people aren't bad, and in fact people think they're good or people are good, I think it just becomes a lot more chaotic. Because when everyone's bad at the game first comes out, people are pretty realistic about the fact that they don't know what the fuck is happening.
Sure, yeah, totally.
Whereas, like, now, people don't know what the fuck is happening, but they really want to act like they know what the fuck is happening. Or like they want to know what the fuck is happening.
Now, does that matter?
Yeah, because the game's too complex.
Why does that matter?
Because you can't pick it up and play it. Like, you basically have to read a textbook on Conquest. So with the meta from last patch, you have to read a textbook on Conquest to be able to play it, or you have to watch hours of someone streaming or whatever.
Which you're saying is the better of two.
No, I'm saying you should just fucking remove buff camps at 10 seconds. That's what I'm saying.
And then when do they spawn?
I don't know, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, doesn't matter. You could put a timer 20 seconds in advance that says the buff camp spawns in 20 seconds, and then your team knows to go and do the buff camp, and the game will tell you how to do that. Like, there are so many more ways to just make it more user-friendly. Because right now, 10 seconds happens, the creeps spawn, or the creeps are almost to lane. They're probably at, like, what, tier 2 maybe? Right, so the creeps are at your tier 2. How many is that? 4 jungle camps spawn on each side.
Right.
Or, sorry, 3 jungle camps spawn on each side, plus 2 mid camps, and you can invade them. And you have to figure out where to send all your different players. Like, it's just... If you want to figure that out, you already have to have studied, like, the textbook from last season, and now you have to, like, apply it theoretically, right? Just to continue that analogy and beat it to...
So the average player isn't going to be the one figuring out
totally
the
not.
high-end theory crap.
Totally not. No, of course.
And with
But wait.
The
The average player should be able to intuitively still do something that's kind of right. Like, when, for example, World of Warcraft, you hit max level in the new expansion, you make your talent points. Your build should be maybe 10 DP or 10% less than ideal. Right? Like, you just...
a lot.
Yeah,
but okay.
it is,
Sure.
right?
Okay.
Sure. Now, the ideal farming in Conquest right now is 450 GPM. That's if you Bumbas clear every camp on cooldown, including mid camps, plus your natural gold spooling, not taking any waves. A new player...
Fighting?
What?
No fighting?
No. Well, I don't know about fighting. That's not including kills. It's just killed every camp, got full gold value because of Bumbas, and, like, GPM. Average player is not going to have 90% of that. You're going to have 60, maybe 70.
Okay. 70 gold per minute?
No, 70%. 70% of 450. Right? Like, me and Wolfie practiced this a fuck ton, and he was averaging 430.
And you and Wolfie are also the top 1% players in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like,
you're the people that are supposed to be doing this.
Right, but at the same time, we're hitting 95% jungle efficiency on him, right? And, like, that took us a lot of work and a lot of effort, and I don't think it's reasonable to expect a casual player not on communications with his team, not double jungling. It's flat out impossible to get even close to that. You're probably looking at 70% efficiency. And I don't think a casual player should... I think a casual player should be higher than that.
But the casual player is also going to be going up against...
other casual players, sure, but like...
70% efficiency.
Right. So, like...
which, if anything, just separates the distance between the top-end players and the casual
players. No, I think it just comes down to, like...
which is a positive.
No, because I think just a player playing intuitively should be better. Should partake in a better part of... be more efficient. Like, just playing intuitively, you should have access to more of the map and you should do it better. But, like, if you... Okay, here's a better way to put this. You take someone who is really good at video games.
Okay.
Right? So you take a professional player. Let's say Ammonster or Cyclone Spin. They're both incredibly fucking good at video games, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you give them a control scheme that they're, like, used to. So an FPS or a MOBA. And you sit them down and play it, and they play 5 games. They should probably be hitting, like, 85%, 90% efficiency. They should be able to play the game okay.
One of the most popular games out there, World of Warcraft. That's not the case.
It is.
If you take somebody that's never played WoW, ever, but they're good at games, and you give them a level 100 character.
Okay, wait. But the thing is, the game teaches you how to play it.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. It's through the leveling process. And if you open your spell book, it actually gives you a guide of how to play your character.
Doesn't tell you the advanced rotation. It tells
It
you
doesn't tell you the
70%
advanced rotations,
efficiency.
but that's
it
still
tells
pretty.
You 70% efficiency.
I think it's higher.
It doesn't
than
give you. It doesn't give you advanced rotations. It doesn't give you secondary stat priority. It doesn't give you proc priority. It doesn't give you a necessary UI to even play the game, which is a whole different level.
Okay, but
Basically,
that's also assuming that World of Warcraft is a good game, right? Like all those arguments that you just put up would just make me say, okay, then WoW isn't a good game either.
Right, but so for right now, we're on the side of the conversation of fun and new playertude, right? Keeping new players or getting new players and having fun, growing the game. That's what we've been talking about because the whole.
Well, if you want to talk about having fun,
later.
If you want to talk about having fun playing the game, let's talk about like a single player action RPG, right? Those games are pretty fun. I'm not thinking Dark Souls. I'm not thinking Devil May Cry because those are games where like part of the appeal is that they're hard. Actually, let's talk about Dark Souls.
Devil May Cry.
Let's talk about Dark Souls. All right, you get into Dark Souls, and the game will do things to teach you how it plays, right? Like you start in the undead asylum, and as you go through, it like shows you an enemy you can't defeat, and it shows you a bonfire. It shows you like various things like ladders and stuff. It shows you a door. It shows you an enemy that you can't defeat. It shows you that sometimes you can bypass certain things by doing something tricky. There's a door hidden on the left side. Then it gives you a shield. It shows you that shield can be used to block arrows, and then it can be used to fight. And then it gives you a weapon and teaches you how to play. Yeah, exactly. It's Zelda-ing you.
Beat the boss with the weapon.
Smite does not Zelda you right now.
No, it doesn't.
And it probably should, because games should do that.
How much of a game should be outside of the lines? Meaning, how much of the game should players be forced to learn by themselves, which eventually will be learned about on third-party websites? Do you understand like the question I phrased?
I mean, I don't know how to answer that. Like, there's no unit for that.
It's an opinion. Sure.
I would say 4 WoW heads worth of information should be accessible, or should be outside the game. Like, I don't know.
Percentage.
I want to say like 20% of the game, 30% of the game should be that sort of stuff. Most of the game should be accessible.
Is that your final answer?
Sure. 40% even.
30% of the game should be figured out by players.
Yeah.
Without a tutorial.
Sure.
You said previously that casual players will get 70% efficiency. Which
in terms of no. That's just no, it doesn't. All right, what you just did was you said 99% of all organisms are single cellular. And 99% of scientists that were ever alive are alive today. Therefore, all scientists are single cellular. That's what you just did. And I'm not going to let it fly. No, because that 40% is an amalgamation of builds and picks and who goes where and like calls and team fights. I'm just
so like there is a part of I have been with you for a long time in the sense that I think that the majority of game should be taught inside the realm of game itself.
And you've been with me a long time, and now we can get gay married.
I'm a proponent of, so I mean, basically, what the difference is World of Warcraft bosses killing you and you just throwing yourself at it until you figure out the mechanics versus the latest World of Warcraft where you just get a book of mechanics. And it just tells you. This boss, instead of like going up against the boss and everybody dying 10 times later, you go, oh shit, he's got an AoE pulse every 8 seconds. You just press Alt-J, Shift-J, it says he's got an AoE pulse.
But the mechanics are also much more complex.
So should Smite come with a Shift-J? Should you be able to Shift-J and say, start at red buff, go to blue buff, go to lane, jungler meets at mid? Is that what should be expected? Because there is
but the thing is
creating this meta.
You can't do that with the way Smite is made right now. But I think the map
because
should lead you
people haven't
around.
Figured it out.
I think
People
no.
haven't
Well, I mean,
figured
you
it
could.
out.
All right, yeah, you could. You could be like, you could wait you're Mr. Hi-Rez, right? You wait 2 weeks. You look at Incon's stream, and then you say, okay, in Incon's games, people do this, and then you just put it into the Shift J. You could do that. But I think the way that MOBAs generally do that is by pathing the player naturally. To some extent. And Smite doesn't do that at all, because every buff spawns at the same time, and every lane spawns at the same time, with the exception that mid-camp meets slightly faster than the side lanes, because it's a longer distance. Which also is kind of weird, if you actually think about that, right? Like, the mid-wave meets faster than the side wave?
It's very strange. It's very strange. That's the length of the waves. Okay, so from a design perspective...
But what you can do is you could say... Alright, well, you start the game, the waves spawn, maybe mid-harpies. You could put mid-harpies at 10 seconds with nothing else. And then that says to players, there's 2 objectives up at 10 seconds. Fight over them. Okay? And then maybe at 2 minutes, or 3 minutes, yeah, probably 2 minutes would make sense. Blue and purple spawn. On both sides. You could make one of them, and they could be contested, that would probably be dumb, or you can make 2, and you could go back to them. And then at 3 minutes, mid-camp spawn again. And then at 4 minutes... red and speed spawn along with blue and purple, or maybe the alternate or whatever. But you could have the map path here.
That's a level designer instead of a UI designer.
Yeah.
Right. That's
totally.
all that is. I mean, there is,
and that's
some sort of...
and like the thing is, I'm not even arguing that that's better for competitive play. I'm just saying that is 10,000 times more accessible. That is the sort of, like, currently in Smite, you start up the game, and until you're level 5, you can't play Conquest. That's how you have someone play Conquest at level 1. Because it's like, okay, go to a wave. Okay, go clear this camp. Like, go do this thing, go do this thing, go do this thing. And the map can tell you that. Sure.
Is that too stale? Is that stifling creativity? Does creativity have a place in the game at all?
Creativity does have a place in the game, but, like, I think creativity is natural. People will be creative with games almost no matter what. Like, if the game is tic-tac-toe, there's a limited number of options.
Right.
There's still a lot, but it's a limited number.
I mean, put it this way, there's no creativity in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, but that's because theory crafting is too powerful.
Right.
Yeah, that's because in World of Warcraft they can theory craft how important a move speed boost is.
I mean, you could do that in Smite too.
No, you can't. Not the same way. Because in World of Warcraft you can have you could be like, okay, they will be standing here, and then they will move here, and this move speed boost increases their DPS by 0.7%.
It increases your GPM by 0.8% by getting from Camp A to Camp B more faster.
Yeah, but there's also way more uncontrollable factors. Like, because it's player versus player. It's basically just like, it's player versus player, you could get Thor ulted.
So, I mean... There should also be a certain level of... I'm trying to think of other... sort of metagame, because the meta will always be, there will always be an optimal route meta, whatever you want to call it, figured out.
You know, I think Smite right now has the same problem that Dawngate had. In that, like, you load in the game, and Dawngate did really well in that it sort of, like, had you pick your roles before you load in. Like, it would be like, alright, well... you could be a farmer, or a poker, or a jungler, or a killer, or a ganker, right? And then you load in, and creeps spawn, and something like 13 jungle camps spawn, and like 3 buff camps on top of them, and then like... that's just... what the fuck do you do? If you're a new player, what the fuck do you do?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what I do.
Now,
I'm a new player,
part of it...
I Alt-Tab, and I search Dawngate Optimal...
And now Dawngate also didn't have that, because it was it was in beta, and it was early, and no one knew what the fuck to do.
Small, yeah.
Like, even the high level... it was, like, the answer now is like, well, you go watch the biggest Smite stream on Twitch.
Right.
But Dawngate didn't have that, because... like who gave a shit.
Because it's Yongate, right? I get
Yeah,
it.
and like
But
it
so-
was young and whatever.
So I mean, like, when I play a game that needs outside of the game knowledge, most of the time that's MMOs. As you said, most closed single-player games, if not all closed single-player games, feed you your game knowledge.
Yeah,
Whether
they
it's
should
through-
do that.
Whether it's through a raw tutorial like System Shock 2, which is just like System Shock is a very complex game, they give you a raw tutorial, or whether it's a gameplay tutorial, a la Zelda.
Sure,
They
and
give you a
sometimes they
tutorial
also
in those
fail at
closed-in
that,
games.
where they're
Right.
like, sometimes games just don't teach you something. It's
Right,
like,
right,
oh,
yeah.
there's also a crafting system, but they don't tell you shit about it.
Yeah, and so when it comes to multiplayer games, a lot of the time that's not the case. When I find a game that gives me where I am poised with a question that is clearly there's a correct answer, I just don't know it.
But most
I'll
games
tell
also
you,
don't have the
look it up.
complexities of MOBAs.
You got MOBAs, you got MMOs, you got sports games, you got.
We could cross sport games off the list because I
RTS.
feel like sports games are like, do you watch football? Do what they do in football.
Right! Aha! Aha!
Okay.
Aha!
Yeah.
What's the meta of American football?
I have no idea. I don't watch football.
There are here. Excellent. There are a whole bunch of people on the map, right? And there is no way you set up, right? They call it the gridiron as I formation, which is what you see. A bunch of fat dudes lining up, a white guy that throws the football, a fat guy that gives it to him, and then dudes that run and catch the football, right?
Yeah.
That's the ideal way to set up a football team. But nobody's telling you that that's how you have to do it.
No, well, yeah, they are. History is telling you that.
Sure, exactly.
But like that,
right?
like
So
might
if
as
you
well
were
be the
gonna
rules
go-
of the game. Because,
Well, no,
but the
no,
problem
let's
is
pretend-
that video games and football are different. Football is a part of American culture, and that means that before you play football, you have somehow interacted with it in some way, and you know that there's a gridiron.
Let's say you don't, okay? So let's say...
Then
all
the
right,
game's
there-
fucking someone just gives you this ball that is not a ball. It is not round. And they're like, get it over there. And you're just like, well, I guess I'll throw it. But you don't know how to throw it because you don't know how to hold it like behind the laces.
Right,
And the
right,
game's
right,
just
right,
ass. What makes the game
Right.
not ass is the fact that it is a part of American culture. And Smite is not.
I'll go with you, not American culture, but there's a large amount of people that play it. Or watch it, or give a damn.
Sure.
That follow it, right? And so... You are into American football.
Okay.
Let's say you want to be, right? And your friend has a team, and let's pretend like you're Harry Potter world, and it's only one-on-one with football, but you have to line everything up, right? Sort of like chess. So this dude, he's got his offensive set or his defensive set ready, you know? And you're like, all right, I got 16 people, and I put them on the field in the best way to do it. How do you do that?
I have no idea.
How do you do it knowing that you don't have an idea? You don't
I just
sit there
put them in
and
a
go,
fucking line. I just be like, why the
what?
fuck are you asking me this? Just line up.
Okay, and then you lose. And then
Yeah.
you...
Copy what the
figure
other
out-
person did.
Sure, you copy what the
Sure.
other person did because it worked. Or you figure out where...
Okay, but here's the problem. That's fucking StarCraft. Right? That is like, okay, the game starts. You have 4 SCVs and a command center. You should probably mine a mineral. And then, like, you're not gonna know that after 8 SCVs you start building a barracks. And you're not gonna know that your barracks blocks off the thing. And... yes, there are ways around that, but that's still ass. That is ass.
But so the answer that I'm looking for, that I'm sure you want to give but don't want to give,
No.
is you look it up.
Yeah, and that's ass. Like I think that's just
It's
bad
a
design.
It's a necessary
No, it's not.
part of
Absolutely
a game
not.
that
Absolutely not.
Wait. For a game to be complex enough for there to be multiple approaches, it can't show you a single approach.
But the game doesn't. No. The solution is pretty pretty simple. You just don't make the game that complex for the first 5 minutes. Because here's the thing. Smite
so you
after
guide the player
okay,
through the
right, like
jungle.
in the SPL meta, the meta that the entire SPL ran on, right? You're railroaded for about 5 minutes, and then you just sort of do things.
Right.
Right. Now, the reason you just sort of do things is at that point there are too many variables, too many things happening, too many possible game states for there to actually be like a concrete meta, like a railroading meta.
I mean, so Summer Split, the first 10 minutes of Smite was already predetermined.
Yeah. Right. And so that was a situation where the railroading lasted longer. But like in the current iteration, or in the previous iteration, it was about 5 minutes of railroading. And then there was stuff where it's like, okay, well...
Oh, hold on. I lost you. I, like, ripped out my headphones because I'm the greatest.
All right.
Okay, continue.
So in the last incarnation, there's about 5 minutes of railroading. Now, Season 1, there was about 10. But whatever. That just has to do with, like, the number of variables involved. And I think after the railroading ends... That happens because there are too many variables in play. There are too many possible game states. There are too many whatevers. There's just too many factors for you to continue railroading. Now, there are some situations, and this is something that I think casters talk about a lot. Maybe it's more of a League of Legends thing, but like laning phases lasting a long time, right?
Yeah.
That means that the railroading is lasting a long time. People are just following the railroads. No one has departed from it. And there are also situations where, like, when someone ganks at 3 minutes instead of going to mid camps, they're also departing from the railroad, but then, you know, that also has just sort of become common enough that it's now an additional option. And I think that's the meta that's problematic.
Options?
No. The fact that there is, like, player-built bullshit railroading. When you can just build that into the map, because it's gonna be a thing anyway. So why wouldn't the map just tell you?
Okay.
Like,
I see what you're saying.
I think this is the best argument that I've come to so far. I'm actually really happy with this one, right? In the summer split, right, you did the things. You went, you know, like speed to blue to lane, and then like back, and then whatever, right?
Right.
And there was maybe like 1 or 2 options there, right? Like you could do triple camp, or you could not, or you could invade their harpies, or you could not. How is that any different from having the map just spawn things for you to do at specific times and set the meta that way and railroad it that way? I don't think it is.
Two things. It's the discovery of the optimal path.
Which I think is...
So it's not something to be celebrated.
That's like literally for me. And like a few other people, right?
Yeah.
That's where you look at the top 1% of all players, and then like half of them don't give a shit.
Right. Yeah, totally. I like that's... I'm actually not sure if I'm a proponent for that. I probably would err on the side of no. You and I probably agree that, like, I don't think it's necessarily important for that to exist.
Yeah.
What I think is important for
and I think just to extend that argument,
multiple approaches.
Just to extend that argument really easily, right? It's like in World of Warcraft, there's a best way to be a hunter. Yes. It doesn't matter whether Elitist Jerks tells you or whether Blizzard tells you. It really doesn't.
That's a huge part of their game.
It is a huge part of their game, but like
for our moment, it's not.
It would matter to the people who do that.
It's not.
That just is a population answer, though, right? Like,
sure, right.
World of Warcraft has a group of people that like sit around and are like, yes, Chimera Sting or whatever, right? Whereas like Smite doesn't have that population. There's no appeal there. Right. Whatever. You can just say like, here's the thing, and you know, like DM Brandon's like, aw, and like nobody else cares.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm like I said, I don't think it's necessarily important to that discovery phase be a part of the game.
Okay.
What I do think is important is that there's for the players.
Yeah.
For the pro players, I kind of do think it's important that there's a discovery phase. But that's the second side of our conversation, which we haven't reached yet.
Okay.
Keeping on the casual side,
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. I don't think that that it's important for this discovery phase to happen because the majority of players don't give a goddamn. It doesn't really impact their lives. They're just going to copy whatever Incon does on stream, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether it's shown in game, there's big neon signs saying "Do this first, do that first, do this first, do that first." When does the in-game direction stop? Does it keep going till the Titan falls?
No, I think you just have it at a timer.
And then when it ends,
But like Smite already has that.
The optimal. But so here, what I'm saying is that unless you have the map dictating to you what to do every second until the game.
But the map
over,
already does that. Kind of, right? Like, Gold Fury spawns 5 minutes after you kill the Gold Fury. Fire Giant spawns 5 minutes after you kill the Fire Giant. Now, it doesn't dictate when you do it for the first time, but after you kill Gold Fury, it dictates that you do it again in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have access to it again in 5 minutes, right? Like, it's just the way that you design it, really, is how you answer that question. Like, how can we get tactical diversity if red buff always spawns at 4 minutes? Well, you design the map to create tactical diversity.
Fight sucks.
I mean, see, to me, it's for the. I want to get into the pro discussion because that's really where this matters. For the casual player, I think that the lack of a strong meta.
I think for the casual player, the answer is that, like, oh, I don't agree with that at all.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, but the majority of people that I see do, whether or not they know it. The same people that are complaining, the same people that I see, and I mean this literally, the same names that I see on Reddit and in Twitch chats complain about the new meta and how bad it is, are the same people talking about how much fun they had level 0 to 20, because nobody knew what the fuck was going on. Now that's part nostalgia vision.
Sure.
But that's also very telling. Right now, and I mean, like, mob mentality, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of players will come tell you that, yeah, before I knew what was going on, it was fun. I wasn't forced to get my buff camps. I wasn't forced to go to the side lanes. As a jungler, I wasn't forced to hit the solo and then mid. I could do whatever I wanted. Nobody.
But the problem
really
is
said
that,
shit.
like, that's not going to last.
Right. It won't. And
now you're just gonna have that the follow-up problem be even worse of like, oh, now I have to like. Okay, so for example, let me describe to you what me and Wolfie did on the PTS.
Okay.
Now we either invade or we don't invade. If we invade, we generally zone them off their speed and take their speed, then they're blue. We go to the solo lane and we tag it. Then we rotate to the blue buff. And then the speed buff, back harpies, red's already down, we go to purple. From there we split. I go into the duo lane, he goes in the mid. We regroup, come back to mid camps. Or, we start at back harpies, then we clear speed. I go to mid wave after checking the right mid camp. Then I clear mid wave, then I check the left mid camp. Meanwhile, he's with the solo laner, they take the blue, they go to wave. We meet back up at back harpies on the right hand side, then we cross over to back harpies on the left hand side. Then we do purple, then I go to duo lane and he goes to mid, and then we regroup for mid harpies.
Which is more optimal?
Still debating that, because it totally depends on what happens in the duo lane. Or maybe people don't want to do it at all because of the duo lane, like, and there's still debate. And also, like, it's really hard to coordinate people actually doing that and stuff like that, and, like, whatever. But it's just too fucking complicated.
I mean, so, I don't see what's so... You just kind of did it. You just kind of cleared stuff and didn't stop, really. Right?
Yeah.
You did two different ways of doing it. And
right.
That's...
But that also doesn't account what happens in like, all the different lanes, right? So, like, what about in the long lane, where you're leaving them alone for a long time? So what sort of god would you want to play there? What happens if they're in a 1v2? What happens if the other person's double jungling and they're in a 1v1? When should you invade? Who are you going to put in the solo lane? Is that where you put a hunter? Do you put a hunter in the long lane? Neith's pretty good in the long lane, but she's probably not what you want in the solo lane, unless you're focusing on the left-hand side of the map. And by the way, you can do that entire start reversed over to the left-hand side of the map. Like, there's a shit ton of tactical diversity, because there's just so much fucking stuff that you could do, but it's also just kind of bullshit.
What do you mean by that?
Like, you just look at it, and you're like, this is just competitive farming. Which is, granted, another complaint and a different discussion, in that it's competitive farming, but it is. But it's more like, it's just sucked, and you know, maybe part of it is that it's just a very drastic shift and people don't like change. I just don't see a casual player knowing what the fuck is going on,
and I don't, and that's not necessarily a.
I think that is a bad thing. I think that's what makes people go back to arena.
Strategy. I mean, yes and no. I don't know, man. I think the game would be stale. It's stale if you start the game the same way every time.
I don't think so. It's just railroading.
What was the complaint last patch by a lot of pros?
I don't know. What was the complaint last patch by a lot of pros? Hunters are OP?
The game was stale. You have players. You have pro players playing different games.
Well, no, that was entirely because rank queues being 1730.
Was it?
I think so.
Do you think it was just a frustration that wound up making people think that the game was stale? Because
I think the game is going to be stale. I think the game is going to be stale when you're in rank queues for 1730, and then you get dodged, and you get another rank queue, then you get dodged, then you're in for 5 minutes, and then you play like, or whatever Spiff's example was. He made a YouTube video on it. It's really good.
Sure.
Right, like I think that's going to exacerbate that problem.
Okay. So,
but the problem is
fast forward 2 months when the optimal strategy is figured out for this.
And I'll tell you, I'm not going to tell you exactly what the optimal strategy is. I can't do that because I don't know yet. But I'm going to tell you what the sort of thing it's going to be. It's going to be optimal farming. You're not going to fight. Because a kill is worth 80 experience at level 1.
Okay.
A camp is worth. Here, let me get my numbers out. Alright. A kill is worth 80 experience at level 1. A single mid-harpy is worth 110 experience at level 1. I think the meta, based on what is in the game right now, will just end up with farming. And you're just going to farm at each other. And then eventually one team will farm better. Or maybe they won't, and maybe you just hit mid-game. But it's going to be railroaded by virtue of maybe not, like, predetermined on the map, but it's just going to be farming. And, like, if you invade, it's like, oh. Or if you try and gank, it's like, oh, they ganked over here. We can go farm their jungle. Or whatever. Because there's so much golden experience on the map.
Right.
That, like, for example, the entire reason me and Wolfie were double jungling is because as a single jungler, you can't farm the entire map.
But so that's separate. That's separate.
That
That's
is
the map
separate.
itself. That's a problem with the map itself, not the fact that it's not ready to be digested.
No, that's also, like, what it digests into is probably just going to be farming.
But so, alright, fine. There's less experience on the map.
And gold.
Boom. Let's just make that happen.
Okay.
Boom.
Alright.
Is it still a problem?
I assume we're also reducing the amount of time
doesn't
junglers have to commit to jungling.
Whatever makes it ideal to farm instead of fight.
Alright, fight instead of farm, you mean.
Is it still a problem
Yeah.
that the map doesn't tell you what to do?
I mean, to some extent. Like, the map obviously shouldn't path completely for you, but it should...
Well, that's
like,
what you're
okay,
proposing.
basically
You're
my argument
proposing
is literally just Heroes of the Storm, right? Like,
Exactly.
the map is like, ding ding, it's 2 minutes, go fight in the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, obviously, like, they just fucking punch you in the face with it, and I think that's, like, accomplishes something, but it's also kind of, like, silly, right? Where they just ring a bell and it's like, dinner's ready, come fight in the jungle. But I also think it's better than just, like, the game starts, everything is there. Farm the everything. I mean, even, like, Dota, to an extent, does that. Leads you around the map a little bit. And, like, now granted, everything spawns, but there's certain things that you can't do at certain times.
Dota is not where you want to go.
Yeah, Dota is also not where I want to go. But, like...
Dota's the one that has complete open-ended, who gives a shit what
No,
you do.
Dota's just
Every team
really
can do
fucking
something different.
complex and weird, and there's, like...
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think that would be tactical diversity.
It is. That's why many people like Dota, because of the tactical diversity.
I think that's, like, partially where the Smite map is going, but the Smite map also has less restrictions on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Dota,
It's
you
also
can't...
much smaller.
Yeah, in Dota, you can't, like, farm certain camps at level 1 without certain characters. Right? Like,
Sure.
the map is harder, so there are things that you can't do. Whereas in Smite, you can kind of do everything at level 1 except for Gold Fury. But that's an objective.
Right, yeah.
And so I think that's, like, kinda... I don't know, like, Smite just has no rules right now. Except farm everything. That's the only rule that the map gives you, is farm everything.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem.
And the rules will be figured out, though.
They will, but I'm worried they'll suck. And be really complex.
There is a high-end meta to Shrek's Super Slam for the Nintendo
Oh yeah,
GameCube.
totally. No, there's a high-end meta to every game. Oh yeah, guaranteed.
Like, if there are players, they will create a high-end meta. Mm-hmm. They will create an optimal situation.
Right, so why does the map have to be so hard for casual players?
You only play the Black Knight Gingerbread Man and the Donkey in Super Shrek Slam.
Right.
That's it.
Right. But then why does the map have to be so inaccessible for casual players?
See, I don't like that. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily inaccessible.
I think it's pretty inaccessible.
Right now, it's no man's land.
Yeah.
Right now, it's no man's land.
Yeah.
And the game relies on the top end players to create the optimal situation.
Right.
Which we've sort of come
I
to a
just
point
sort
where,
of think like that a player
terrible.
going into Conquest should like understand what's happening a little bit. Like someone who levels to 30 on Arena should be able to play a game of Conquest and like kind of do okay.
I mean, why? It's so
because the idea is that everyone who loads up a game of Conquest should be able to kind of do okay. Right? That's what matchmaking is for. And I think like that also has to do with map design. But you shouldn't really have someone just going in and going, I have no idea what the fuck to do. And especially like there's just so many.
There aren't many, if any, popular multiplayer PvP games that's possible in.
What do you mean?
There aren't many PvP multiplayer games that you can just load up and do okay. You have to learn.
No, you can just load up and do okay with like. With matchmaking and stuff, like in plenty of games. I mean, like Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike. You can just go on a server and you can play the game. I've done it. No, like I've done it. You just load up Counter-Strike, you go on a server, you could play the game, you could do okay. That's fine. You can even do it for the fucking crazy Warcraft 3 Counter-Strike mod. It's the same thing. You just load in, you play the game. You probably get killed by an invisible guy with an AWP, but whatever. Maybe you killed someone with an SMG. Like, you can just play the game. And with Smite, I don't think you can do that right now. I think you just load it up, you look at the map, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? what the fuck do I do?
I mean, it's the same, like, it's the same. Counter-Strike and Smite are very, very similar. You load up Conquest for the first time, you have no idea what the hell is going on. You pick Neath, and you buy Hydra's Lament and a bunch of potions, and you go mid lane.
Yeah. And now, remember...
In Counter-Strike, you purchase dualies and a decoy grenade. You walk around the bend in Inferno and get shot to shit because you don't know that that's a choke point.
No, but you're talking about like ranked Counter-Strike, and I'm not talking about ranked. Like when you play Counter-Strike for the first time, you buy a gun that looks cool, you follow the dudes in front of you to a bomb site, and then you shoot some dudes.
I'm talking 5v5. They call it competitive now.
Right, but we're not talking about ranked. We're just talking about casuals.
15v15 is not Counter-Strike though.
Yeah, it is.
That's Siege. That's Siege. Counter-Strike is if you're comparing Counter-Strike to Smite Conquest, you have to compare 5v5 Counter-Strike.
Okay, fine, same thing.
You can't perform well in a 5v5 situation.
If you get match made into a game, you should be able to play the game. And right now, I feel like as a player that's like match made into Conquest, you just like. And you know, someone in chat said the casual player isn't playing Conquest, though. So why is that relevant? That's the point! That is my entire point.
Right.
Casual players aren't playing Conquest. Why aren't they playing Conquest? Because they have no idea what the fuck to do. Conquest is our premier game mode. It should be the best. And, like, you should be able to just play it.
That's a much different...
That's my entire argument. That's my entire argument, and that's like the problem why being too complex is a problem. It's not a problem for pro-level players, right? Zap could leash the red buff perfectly every time. Every time. That's not an issue for us. Even in high-level ranked games. Even in ranked games where, like, pro players will be like, look at this Smite Guru, it was a bad ranked game. They still leash the red buff correctly. Because everyone knows how to do that at that level. The problem is when you go into Conquest and you're like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm just going to play Arena forever. That sucks. Because Conquest is the premier game mode. It's the best game mode in Smite. And it should be something that everyone who plays Smite wants to play. And it's not.
I mean, sure. A lot of that comes from pressure, though, when you talk to people. Anecdotally, people avoid Conquest because they don't want to be judged.
Right.
For being bad.
And you know how you fix that is you just have the map tell you what to do in order to go. You just have the map give you an objective. Conquest doesn't have one.
Doesn't that dilute top-end play?
No, not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all.
But then you don't have any strategic diversity.
Yeah, you do. You have plenty. It's diversity about the objectives, around the objectives. That's like...
You just do what the map says.
Yeah, but like, alright, I'm gonna use Counter-Strike again, right? Like, the map says, like, go here, do the thing, and you just sort of understand to do that. Whereas in Smite, the map says, alright, so you're gonna want to sit in lane, or you just want to farm up for 20 levels and then kill all the towers and maybe get a fire giant. But, like, that doesn't tell you at all how to play the game, at all. It's completely inaccessible. Whereas, like, if the map is like, okay, well, the only things that are spawning are mid-camps and lanes, then your players could be like, okay, I'm going to go to a lane, or okay, I'm going to go to mid-camps. Then a few minutes later, it's like, alright, a red buff's going to spawn, and your player's like, oh man, a red buff's going to spawn, guess I'll go there. Or maybe they don't, but they're a shitter, whatever. Right? Like, there's no... You just look at Conquest, and you have no idea what's going on. And that's not how it should be. You should be able to play the game. And, like... Someone earlier said that's what co-op versus bots are for. Yeah, but co-op versus bots doesn't teach you anything for the same reason.
So if there was a tutorial that showed you what to do,
the tutorial wouldn't fix it either, because it wouldn't show you how to, like, leash the red buff properly or whatever.
Why not?
Or where to start.
Why not?
Because that's entirely meta dependent. And, like, that's a tutorial that you'd have to have, like, Hi-Rez tutorial guy go through and update every time the meta changed. And you don't want that.
Well, how does the meta change if the map tells you what to do? It can't, because that's exactly what the meta is.
Yeah, it can.
So
no. The railroading won't change. Okay, alright. Let me change my words. The railroading will not change. The map will railroad you. And that's fine. But the meta can change around that. Of course it can. Now, having a tutorial to show you the railroad is like a problem. Because the railroad can change from patch to patch. And once again, we're using railroad to determine like the sort of things you do for the first 5 minutes. Like where you go and what you do. Right.
On rails.
So, Nanton in chat, the map should tell you the basic meta. It's alright for the map to tell you the basics. This is where you go. Hunter, Guardian, Duo, Mage, and Mid. And, like, in one of the best changes into Season 2 was the purple buff. Because the purple buff tells you Hunter in the Duo lane. That was fucking awesome. The speed buff tells you a jungler in the solo lane. Or at least on that side of the map.
Not necessarily. I mean,
well, the speed buff tells you that the jungler should start there. To an extent, right? Like, those are the sorts of things that you can do, right? The purple buff is in the duo lane because hunters go in the duo lane. Hunters go into the duo lane because of the Gold Fury, but when you're first starting the game, you're just, like, it's like, why does the hunter go to the duo lane? Because of the purple buff. And the map can totally railroad you and still leave room for strategic diversity.
That's just game design, then. And
yeah, it is.
That's not necessarily...
That's what this argument... Well, I mean, we're talking about a patch, so of
it's
course
not
it's
necessarily good. I mean, like I said, there is, like, at that point, you're just limiting the beginning factors of the game, and limiting is not... That's
I don't think limiting... No, the
game design.
The beginning of the game is limited anyway. Because, like, it's railroaded. It's limited anyway. You're just having the map tell you. Like, every map, until it is changed by a patch, there is out there somewhere waiting the ideal railroad, and it's like length of time. Now, maybe like the past split, we had a 5-minute railroad, roughly, right? Maybe in actuality, it's a 9-minute railroad. And we just, like, hadn't learned it all.
We had a 10-minute, there was a straight, like...
we could call it a 10-minute railroad for the last patch, sure.
I knew exactly what was going to happen for the most part.
I don't think so, because, like, early Gold Furies and stuff happened, but, like, whatever. There is a railroad, right? So out there somewhere, for every map, for every meta, there's a railroad just waiting for somebody to get it. Why not just make the map have it?
Because that's watching the game mature. That's watching the game get to that point. I mean,
you don't need it to.
Wasn't it? But
basically, it's just...
How did the summer split start as far as picks are concerned? I'm moving away from the map real quick. Hunters are dead. Don't pick hunters. That was the thought process.
Right.
Hunters are bad.
Well, not in the duo lane. We still put hunters in the duo lane.
Right. And it was like very small amount.
Yeah.
Week 7, can I have 5
Well, but there were patch
please?
changes that changed that. And I can list them. So what happened was Baka was solo lane dominant, right? And Baka eventually got nerfed, which sort of coincided with the rise of Guardians in the solo lane, which was also a result of Warriors being bad. So Warriors were bad against Assassins. And then Divius played Guardians, because Divius only plays Warriors and Guardians. So that ended up being good, and then they sort of brought Mark of the Vanguard in the solo lane, and Baka got nerfed. And so that resulted in Guardians going to the solo lane. Then they were played in the jungle, just somebody found that out.
Baka's nerf had nothing to do with the thing that makes him good against Guardians, though. Baka's nerf
was entirely... Yeah, that's... When you... Okay, so his that's his level 5 kill potential. It's incredible against everyone.
What makes Baka scary against Guardians is the true damage, not the
damage. Those 6 minions can hold him in place and beat them the fuck up, because a lot of Guardians lack mobility. Like,
okay.
Yeah, like, you use that on, like, Sobek, and he can't pluck out. Not only is he crippled, there are minions probably in his way. Maybe he could tail whip, and he can get lucky and find some room. Well, he could also ult out and stuff like that. But, like, it also just made Baka not as good versus Warriors and other stuff. Either way, eventually somebody played Guardians in the jungle. It was Dare to Care. And Guardians in the jungle shut down Assassins in the jungle. Because you can't play Thor into a Guardian. You just can't. Right? When Guardians are in the jungle, well, they're really difficult to kill, so what do? You get a Hunter. Now, this also coincided with a nerf to Devil Gauntlets, which makes Heartseeker better. Heartseeker got 100 gold cheaper, and Devo Gauntlets got nerfed, so people switched to Heartseeker, which made hunters have a stronger early game,
Yep.
and allowed certain hunters, Neath, to be put in the middle lane. So now you have 2 hunters. And those hunters are very good against Guardians. Their natural counter is Assassins, which are already in trouble because Assassins are bad against Guardians.
Right.
And so that's the hunter meta, but it's entirely fueled by Guardians.
Sure. I mean...
But, like, that also is patch influenced.
A little bit. I do think that
you wouldn't have it without the Hearts. You wouldn't have Neath mid without the Heartseeker nerf. Or Heartseeker buff and Devo's nerf.
Right, but were hunters actually as bad as they were? No.
No. But that's, like, the game will mature.
Was Titan's Bane good Season 1?
No, nobody knew better. I don't see what your point is, though.
My point is that the game will mature and grow as people, both with small patches and with intelligence.
And it'll do that regardless of whether or not the map tells you how to play it.
Well, there's nowhere to grow if the map literally tells you what to do.
Yeah, there is. Totally.
You can't, you can't divert.
Yeah, you can. Totally. All the map has to do is be like, alright, red buff spawns at 2 minutes. And then you'll see...
That's stifling game design.
No, it's not.
That game design is stifling what you can do as a player.
Not really.
It's a limiting factor.
No.
It's a limit. It's a limit.
Because the meta's going to create that anyway.
You can do whatever you want.
I mean, the meta will limit it anyway. It doesn't change anything. Like, the meta will determine an early railroad that creates the same limiting factors of just having the map do it.
But you got to get there first.
Yeah, but who cares?
A lot of people.
I don't think
people watch. That's a part of. That's a part.
No, but the meta will evolve anyway. Like, just building the railroad is like, who cares, really? And like, even then, you'll still find people who do more efficient way to do that. Like, the higher players will always like have strategic diversity and find new strats and do new things. Like, that's just a fact, right? Like, you know, so, for example, something like 7 years after Tribes came out in 1998, somebody realized that you could disc jump off of a grenade as you threw it out of your left hand, so they learned how to disc jump in midair. Right? There's always stuff like that. And you can always evolve the meta and change the meta and grow. But you can also just have the map, like, be good for new players. And right now it's not. Right now it's fucking awful for new players.
I think that this just gets solved with a tutorial that says this is what
I think that's a bad solution. I think that's like a Band-Aid fix.
I disagree. I think that's how. I mean, if you take it to game, like that, tutorials are super important for game design.
Totally,
like,
and there should be a tutorial.
101.
Yeah, tutorials are there. But
a tutorial is not a crutch. You seem to think that a tutorial is a crutch.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that, like, well, actually, people do ignore tutorials. That happens a lot. But also, like, there's just no reason to have 6 buffs and 2 mid camps, 12 buffs and 2 mid camps spawn at the first 10 seconds. Like, that doesn't provide any benefit.
There's just a lot of stuff going on.
But why does there have to be?
Why not?
Because it's fucking confusing, and new players aren't going to want to do it.
I don't
like, that's the entire argument is that all this stuff spawns, and you just look at it, you're like, I don't know what the fuck to do, I'm gonna go back to Arena. That's the entire argument.
I don't think that that's what players say.
It definitely is. It's definitely that's like why it's like it's just
I don't think that's I don't think a player downloads Smite, tries Conquest, and goes...
Well, first of all, that new player downloads Smite, plays Arena till level 5, and then plays Conquest, and is like, I don't know what the fuck is happening in this game mode, I'm going back to Arena.
I have not heard that often.
Oh, I have.
I have heard Toxicity.
Sure.
I have heard Toxicity. I have heard complications with builds. So, that was me. My personal experience playing Smite when I first downloaded it, there was a map that I had to learn. That's fun. There are items that I have to learn. That's not fun. Should the game also railroad your item builds? Because
It does. We have auto build.
So should you just should there be a casual conquest map where you can
No.
turn on auto?
No, auto build is something that you can turn on. It's turned on by default, and you have to turn it off. The game does
Right.
that for you. The game shows you how to do that,
Right.
and it has auto level for your abilities too. Like
So
the
it should
game
just
is telling you.
automate
Okay,
everything.
and so maybe this is a better argument, or here's another way of looking at it. The game has auto build to tell you which abilities you should probably level. The game has auto buy, which tells you which items you should probably buy. So why does the map not give you any clue what the fuck to do?
Because that's the different building is sort of the outside of the line part of the game.
So is the railroad. Railroad is entirely outside the line. That's something that
No,
is
that's
going
the
to be
actual
determined by
game.
like.
That's the gameplay.
No, that's something that is determined by C9 and TSM sitting in a room scrimming for 18 hours until they figure out the best way to do it and play in a tournament game. That's how it's determined.
Sure. Yeah. It's the top end players figuring out what works best.
Right, but I feel like you have this notion that just like having an objective spawn completely decides the meta, and it totally does not. Because there's still strategic diversity, there's still lanes to push, and still gold furies to do. Like, basically, what I'm talking about is mid camps. Like mid camps in the last split was like 3 minutes you fight at the mid camps.
Yeah.
And that objective spawned and you did it. Right? Now it's
3 times. 3, 6, and 9.
Yeah, sure.
Every single time.
Well, it's really more like 3, 6, 20, 9, 40, but yeah.
It's 3, 6, and 9 every single time. Right. There are differences. It's the 3, 6, and 9 camps.
Yeah. So, like, did that stagnate the meta?
No, because it was a single camp.
Okay, but
And
what if you
it
have a
sort
red
of
buff
did.
spawn at 4 minutes? No, it didn't, because you could, like...
Because it
No.
was predictable.
It was predictable, and then...
That's what you do
And the
every
response
time.
to it is also predictable. So therefore, you can gank solo lane off timer with the mid camp spawns, or you can rush Gold Fury after you take left mid camps, and both of those things happen in the SPL, and they were both
Right.
fantastic.
Right.
Yeah,
But
and
the
that was
entire
entirely
map?
objective-based play.
But the entire map to be railroaded?
I mean...
Right now you're saying that the problem with the current patch is that junglers will spend too much time jungling.
No, that's a separate
instead
problem.
of fighting.
That's a problem with the meta.
With the map, with the amount of experience and
Well-
gold on the map.
Yeah, but that's like a different argument. That's just sort of like the meta is problematic. Right, like, eventually... I don't know what the meta will end up being, but I know it's going to be farming. Because the
Elaborate.
map has so much... Like...
Right. Because there's just a lot of golden experience on the map.
Yeah. That's a different issue. That's just sort of like this meta is bad. What I'm really talking about is that the map has, like, no guideline to it. Right, there's... The railroading is entirely player determined, and that seems like it's something that is inaccessible to new players. Very inaccessible to new players.
And then but you use your that's what a player base is for. Your players will teach you that. That's
Yeah.
part of like learning the game.
But the railroad is also determined on all 5 players like doing the right thing at the right time. Right? Like, and that's problematic.
So there should like all rules should be hard coded rules.
No, you just like don't have all the camps spawn at 10 seconds. That's it. It's literally why mid camps were removed between season 1 and season 2.
Why?
Because, like, at the start of the game, it was like... so that there could just be, like, this map objective could come in later. And, like...
They were removed because it was a railroad. Players didn't.
Well, but
like
there's
the
always
fact
going to
that
be a
it
railroad.
had to start
There's
there.
always going to be a railroad.
They were moved because of the railroad. Now you're proposing a railroad to fix the problem?
Because there's always going to be a
Players didn't
railroad.
like
There's
railroad.
always going to be a railroad. Absolutely. There's absolutely always going to be a railroad. It just might take us a month to make it this time.
It just has to be a railroad that you like more so than the
No,
other player.
no. I mean, no. If it had to be a railroad that I liked, I would say everything should be played on the last patch, where we played a Guardian solo and a Guardian jungle and a Guardian support. That was the railroad I liked. That was fucking great for my team. No.
Yeah, it was.
I'm saying that, like, there's always going to be a railroad, so why doesn't the map tell you what it is? Because there's no real decision. There's no legitimate decision by the players on what they're gonna do. Let me put it this way. There's no genuine option for the players what they're gonna do on the railroad, right? Like, at some point, C9 and TSM will, like, do the start that everyone's gonna do, and everyone's gonna have to do that forever.
Mm-hmm.
They'll figure it out. Or maybe Eager and AFK will figure it out. Or maybe Fnatic and Titan will figure it out. Whatever. They'll figure it out. Okay. That exists. That's a thing. Can we agree that's a thing? Then
But
why
there's
is it
an
not
optimal-
part of the map? Why not just make the map with that built in? And make it more accessible for new players?
Because one of the number one complaints from the casual fan base is that the rules in Conquest are too stringent. This sort of railroading is exactly what casual players don't enjoy. That's what the feedback is.
Well, but that's just making it, like, less finicky. Really. That's making it less finicky. That's making a situation...
No. Casual players don't like decisions being made for them. They like to make their own decisions. Casual players like to play attack speed Guan Yu. Casual players like to build Rage and Deathbringer and Aussie on Thanatos.
And those casual players are the people who are just going to play Arena forever, I guess.
No, these are the casual players that are welcoming the changes to the current Conquest map because they're not being told what to do. There are so many things for them. And eventually, when that optimal strategy does come out, then they will be reintroduced to the same old song and dance that they have been.
Okay.
There's an optimal strategy. But for right now, what the casual player doesn't enjoy is being told what to do. They like to try other things. The amount of
So then,
times that
how
I've had
is
somebody-
that a solution in any way? I mean, like what Spiff said, the problem is there's a railroad already, but the game doesn't tell you what it is. So how is the game telling you what it is a problem?
Because players want choice.
But there is no choice. There's no
There is
legitimate
choice
choice.
right now.
There's no
There's
legitimate
choice.
choice.
What's the optimal strategy right now?
It's not been decided. Like, you're
There
just
is- so
wait.
there's choice.
So you just
So there's
release this
choice.
patch every month? You just do this patch every month? Hell no. Your argument is entirely based on, like, the 4-week period before we have the railroad figure out.
Sure.
That's your entire argument right now.
I'm just telling you what casual players enjoy.
Right.
Casual players
Well-
don't like being railroaded.
I don't
I know
think...
for a fact that is the casual feedback that Hi-Rez Studios gets.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Casual
yeah.
players don't like being railroaded. Casual players don't like being told what to do. Casual players don't like a rule system. Casual players want to do what they want to do. Now,
Oh, I mean, the
chat
solution to that is
is
just to
mid-casual.
disable team party chat. Like, and then no one can tell you what to do. That's the solution.
Toxicity. That's toxicity, right?
Well, I don't know, like... Yeah, I just... I don't know if that's... That doesn't make sense to me. And because every
Because
game is...
you are the complete opposite of a casual player.
No,
You're
have you
literally
seen
paid
high level
to pay.
have you seen high level casual conquest? There are no fucking rules. It's the exact same, or it's not the exact same thing. It's very similar because
I
you
know.
play Thor ADC and whatever, and you still do the railroading, but like whatever. So I just like, man, I don't know, like.
I mean, part of the experience is part of the MOBA is being better at MOBA than the other team. And part of that is either figuring out a better way of doing things at level 1 than your opponent, or if there is a known optimal strategy, executing that better. For
Right.
better or for worse, that is what a MOBA is.
Okay.
So
I don't see why having the map spawn objectives, like, on a timer that's not, like, what is it, 14 camps spawning at once is bad. Right? Like, that's my argument, is that 14 camps spawning simultaneously is bad, because this is 10v10.
Wait, what? 10v...
Or 5v5, yeah, whatever.
I didn't
There are
follow
10
that
players
one.
total, 14 camps spawn. What the fuck,
Okay.
Hi-Rez? That's my argument.
Well, it's a poo-poo platter. You can do whatever you want.
No, it's not! You can't
It
actually
is.
do it all.
Right now, you can do whatever you want.
No, you can't. You can't. Well,
Totally
okay,
can.
you can do whatever you want, but it just doesn't fucking make sense. It's, you know what it is? It's what happens to me when I play Fallout. I leave the vault, the game's like, look at this world. You can do anything you fucking want, and I'm like, what the fuck do I do? What the fuck do I do?
And then it's like me when I play Fallout. You step out of the vault, you can do anything you want, and I play for 12 months when I routinely play games for about a week. We're two very, 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 very different
I just
players.
don't see, like, I don't see how spawning a buff late and creating a start that is significantly less chaotic and explains itself better is restricting that in any way. Like,
You're literally putting a restriction on what you can do. By taking out all the buff cams spawning and restricting the amount of buff cams to spawn, that is literally a restriction. That is what a restriction is. You are
I don't know. I mean,
restricting
your
the map.
argument, like, still only lasts for 4 weeks. Right? It still only lasts until TSM have, like, ordained that this is the meta.
Right.
So, are we gonna have a patch like this every 4 weeks?
I mean, that during a split, I would say no.
Okay.
I don't like mid-split stuff.
Yeah.
But if every single split, if for every single split, 7-week split was a summer split, 4 weeks of it is teams trying to figure, and this is towards the professional side of things, 4 weeks of it is teams trying to figure out the optimal strategy, and 3 weeks of it is who's the best at this optimal strategy. That's cool. That's a good product. That is a fun product to watch. That is definitely a fun product.
But even then, you have to determine that, like, you have to do it in such a way, and I haven't even gotten to my second argument in that, like, the eventual meta will be garbage because it's farming oriented, right? That's, like, my second argument, and I can prove that too, but I don't know, like, it's just the game railroads you anyway, right? Because that's the way MOBAs work. So why not have the map railroad you?
I just think it's poor game design to hold the hand for too long.
It's not necessarily holding the hand.
I mean, it's objectively.
No, but it's not necessarily holding the hand.
It's literally telling you what to do. By spawning the red buff, you're
yeah, but like by
that's the
spawning
buff
the
you
red
get.
buff at 4 minutes after you kill it, it's telling you what to do. Isn't it? Like, isn't that kind of the same thing? Like,
Right.
what if Hi-Rez looked at, they removed all the other changes, right? So we're going back to the SPL patch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the average clear time of every single camp, right? And you just, they don't spawn the first clear, but they spawn when they would have respawned in Summer Split. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
How is that any different? I don't think that's holding your hand. I think that's just the way it works when your camps don't respawn randomly.
I guess. I see what you're saying, though.
Right?
About the secondary.
I just, I don't think it's railroading because the camps spawn on a predictable timer anyway, and there's a timer that shows up on your map anyway.
But you create that railroad by clearing camps in the order that you clear them in.
Yeah, but you could also just like have like 2 less camps spawn. You could just not have harpies spawn with at 10 seconds, right? And then like that railroad gets created and it's a little bit simpler. Or you could just not have buff camps spawn initially and it's just harpies and the railroad gets a little bit simpler.
See, because even with the way buff timers work right now, the players create their own railroad.
No, the railroad is just like whatever is efficient.
Right.
You don't really create it.
I mean, you do. Right?
Not really. Like, it's not a legitimate option.
If you clear back speed blue lane, you're going to be clearing your camps back speed blue, back speed blue, back speed blue, because you've created that. If you go,
but what
if you go back blue lane speed,
okay,
you're going to.
But what if back speed and blue all spawn at 3 minutes? Same thing.
You're creating your railroad then.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
The
then.
player creates their own.
Sure. What if?
Which is better.
What if mid camps spawn at 10 seconds and then back speed and blue all spawn at 3 minutes? How's that any different? I don't think it is.
You're creating your own railroad. It's
Yeah.
Player created railroad.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then instead of like the first 10 seconds of the game, you look at the map and you don't know what to do. Like, I don't know. I just like you should look at the map and you should be like, I understand what the map is telling me to do.
And it's not. It's telling you to clear all the buffs.
No, because you can't.
You can clear all the buffs.
No, you can't. I told you the path that we take to clear all the buffs. It takes 2.5 minutes.
I mean, that's fine. You can clear all the buffs.
But
clearing the buffs.
Camp doesn't really. The game doesn't tell you to do that.
It doesn't. It just tells you to clear buffs because they're there to be cleared.
Yeah, but you also have to balance that with farming through waves.
Why?
Because waves are worth more than buffs.
Says the top end pro player. Casual players don't know that. That's
okay, then the map's just telling you the wrong thing. And that's just bad game design.
It's not bad game design.
Yeah, it is. If the map is telling you do this thing, but it's better to do the other thing, that's bad game design.
No, it's choice game design.
No.
I mean, it's an objective way of designing a game to do that.
So to have the map telling you one thing when it's better to do the other thing. No.
Yeah, that's an aspect of game design for sure. You're forcing the player to choose whether it's what's in front of them or what's.
It's not a choice. It's just misleading. That's just being misleading.
Or it's not being misleading.
Yeah, it is being misleading. It's saying do this when you should be doing that. That is misleading.
The map's really not. I'll double back on myself right there. I mean, the map's not really telling you to do much of anything.
And then that's the point. That's my point. The map is not telling you shit.
Exactly. And
it should tell you something. You should look at Conquest and you should know what to do. That's the problem. That's my issue.
But there's a tutorial for that.
No, there isn't.
There is. It tells you long lane and short lane and solo and duo.
Has it been updated?
Since when?
Since the meta changed completely. Since today. Has been updated today. Then it's invalid.
No.
It's absolutely invalid.
It's invalid?
Yeah, because it's not telling you what to do.
2 people in the long lane, 1 person
That's
in the
not
short
what you
lane.
do.
Is that what you do? So
no.
what's the optimal strategy?
From what I have seen, you have 1 person in the long...
What's the optimal strategy?
In my opinion, the optimal strategy is to have 2 people double jungling. They're going to start at back harpies or invade with the solo laner who is probably going to be a hunter. Now, or maybe, you know what? Maybe a guardian. Not sure yet, because I'm not sure on what's optimal. Now, In the mid lane, you probably want your hunter. You certainly don't want your hunter in the long lane unless you're picking Neath. Neath could go in the long lane, maybe Hu-Yi, but not really anyone else. Anyway, mid and hunter are going to start at red. They clear red. Mid goes to lane, and the suicide laner goes to the suicide lane. Now your 3-man clear is going to do backs to speed to blue. At speed, the support goes mid. After checking right mid camps, they go into mid. Whereas the solo laner and the jungler go into blue. Then they're going to regroup, and they're going to go to left camps, and then go back to purple buff. Meanwhile, the person in the suicide lane is playing a god that cannot be zoned out of experience, such as Augie, or Hu-Yi, or Ullr, or potentially Neath, and they're going to, like, try and...
Why don't they get camped?
Because you're playing someone you can't zone out of experience. You cannot zone Agni out of experience. It's literally impossible.
Why don't you just gank them?
Because your jungler has less presence than your jungler because they're double jungling. So they can clear your jungle faster, they can invade your jungler, they can fight you, they can clear you. They have 2 junglers on the map, so they have more map presence.
Jungling? Why don't you just kill him?
Kill who?
The suicide lane.
Because he's Agni, you can't zone him out of experience, you can't kill him. It's literally impossible to zone and kill
him.
No, it's literally impossible to zone and kill Agni.
I've watched Agnis die.
No, here's what you do. Alright, so you're Agni in the long lane, right? At level 1 you get your dash, at level 2 you get your 1. And what you're going to do is you're going to walk up with the wave. Now, if they walk up to zone you, you say more than 55 feet away from their support. Your 1 is at 70-foot range. Either the creeps will aggro onto their support because he's gotten too close to the archers, which you are standing behind, at which point you can just disengage because their camps will push up.
Why doesn't somebody, like, come behind him? Or
because their jungler has less pressure than them. Their jungler has less pressure than you because you're double jungling and your clear's faster.
So why don't they forgo some clear to kill because they have an opportunity since it's 2-1-1?
Because you still have a dash. Oh, and also, because a kill is only worth 80 experience at level 1.
But so you're just putting them down. You can keep them down.
Yeah, it's a suicide lane.
So he's there.
It's literally from Dota. It's literally from Dota. Like,
so he's there to die.
What?
So he's there to die?
Yeah, he's there to not necessarily die, but you're gonna try and get farm without feeding. Whereas your double jungler is able to dominate the map, absolutely destroy the enemy's potential to jungle, and they're also getting much faster farm than everyone else on the map. Because here's the other thing.
So why aren't you pushing a lane with your extra player?
Yeah, you can push them under tower. They don't care. They're getting solo farm. If they're under tower, they're winning. And you can't zone them. You can't stop it. You can't stop Agni suicide lane.
So why didn't double jungle work previously?
Because there wasn't enough experience in gold in the jungle. Now there's enough experience in gold in the jungle.
I mean, I'm just saying that there will be this can grow. You can't tell me that you have figured out the optimal strategy on day 1.
No, but I have some ideas as to how it works. Obviously, it's not the optimal strategy.
There is going to be a counter.
There's going to be an evolution.
This is not.
There's going to be an evolution. But the problem is that even then, the map is still not telling you how the fuck to do it. And we haven't even delved into the other problems of the patch, like increased snowballing. Increased snowballing.
Okay.
Increased snowballing, and a shitty farm-based meta. We have not delved into those problems. I could talk about those too. Now, increased snowballing is caused because there's so much golden experience in the jungle that if you're able to get jungle control over your opponent, you can choke them out over a much larger percentage of the experience on their team. Furthermore, with the increased strength of the Bumba's Mask in this new, more camp-filled jungle, your jungler is looking at a maximum 450 GPM just from farming your own jungler, while their second jungler is getting 380, which is absolutely insane. So, gold's going up.
Mm-hmm.
Ability to snowball is going up by, like, taking the jungler. And make no mistake, this meta is entirely farm-based because of how much golden experience is in the jungle, and because of creep values, of gold fury values going down, of kill values going down. The result is a meta that's based entirely on farming. If you're not clearing your jungle on cooldown, you are losing to your opponent. Flat out. It's not worth it to get... Alright, for example, the Iraffer problem in Season 1. Or, was it Weekend? Someone did it recently, where they were sitting on a sentry ward for about 30 seconds outside left lane, waiting for a kill.
Yep, that's right.
You can't do that anymore. You
can
can't.
never really do that. The conversation
Now it's
was
worse.
that he was wasting it.
Now it's worse.
Right.
Now you're missing 3 camps instead of 1. Like, it's entirely farm-oriented. For sure, 100%. If you don't think that, I don't think you've played it. And that sounds really fucking condescending, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be condescending, but like, dude, we're getting 450 GPM from just clearing camps. That's not including taking waves. That's like,
I know.
that's bad.
I don't know what you're like. Yeah.
And it's
There's
snowballing.
too much experience in gold. Like that. Sure. Sweet.
Okay. All right.
I
so
haven't had a counter argument.
okay. So
that,
then
but...
it's I would assume going to get changed within the next 4 weeks.
I mean, that's not my decision.
No, obviously it's not. Obviously it's not. Obviously it's not.
My personal opinion is that, yeah, there's a little too much golden experience in the jungle.
Yeah, totally.
I don't really care about that conversation. I don't think it should be railroaded in how to clear the jungle. Now,
Maybe not.
Is there too much? Yeah, there's too much shit in the jungle to be cleared.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think there's also too
often.
much shit at level 1, but that's another discussion. And that's really based off of Allied's video, which I think, if you haven't seen it, is really, really good food for thought.
Yeah, it's a great video. Check it out. It actually catapulted him. He got like a bazillion new followers on YouTube for watching that. We'll link it at the end of the episode, which will be coming up soon. We went pretty deep in this one.
Yeah, we did.
Really,
really
exploring the casual side of things. I think next week we can talk again about how this impacts a pro player and stuff. But before we go, so I mean, I'm with you. I think that there is too much. I think there's too much. What's it called? Experience in gold in the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's really something that's like you can really argue. Like,
no,
you play it and you're like, I can't clear this all.
Right. It's just too much. What I will argue about is stifling players' choice. I think that having everything spawn at level 1 is totally fine. There will be an optimal strategy found out, or a close to optimal strategy that's going to be found out by players that are paid to or close to paid to play the game.
And if you want to know more about that, you should check out Allied's video. That's basically, I was really on Allied's end of the argument there, in just sort of reducing complexity. And I think it's an interesting discussion as well. Now, I think that the final point we need to make is this sort of patch good? And
Sure.
I want to give
For
some
the
pros
casual
and
player?
no,
For the
just
casual
like holistically. And I would give some
That's
pros
rough
and
to say.
cons. I think it's really unfortunate for the challenger players who have to play this weekend. Like, that sucks. That just sucks. We'll see how they adapt, but it's probably going to be kind of a shit show. Probably a shit show really worth watching, but I would say a shit show. Do I think this patch specifically is good for the meta or good for the growth of the game? No. Do I think radical changes in patches are good? Yes. And I wish we had gotten more out of the PTS, had more input and time to test it, because I think a lot of the changes had really good intentions. Man, I think a lot of them had like some...
The PTS is not to test meta, and I'm going above my pay grade here. This is not coming from Hi-Rez. This is coming from me and what I've experienced in my experience of having friends in the game industry, both big name games and small name games. PTS is not to test meta and gameplay viability. That's what the actual live servers are for.
Okay.
The people that play on the PTS are not your... There is not a single casual player that plays on the PTS. Mm-hmm. By nature of downloading a test server, you have shed your casual player title. The PTS is to see, does Ravana become invincible forever when you press his kick?
No, he definitely does not. He just fucking dies. We have tested that. Oh, man.
So that's what PTS is.
Sure.
So when it comes to conversations of like, well, on PTS we only had 6 days to test out this meta, nobody gives a shit. Because it's not ultimately the players that are playing on the PTS that matter, so to speak. They're going to play. I'm phrasing this very, very shitty. Because because you and I can leave Smite at any point in time, right? As far as players are concerned. What I'm saying is that we're going to care if it's on PTS. Once it hits live, that's where you get the real experience. That's where you see the average casual player's experience with it, and where you'll get the Reddit threads and stuff. The PTS, I mean, even Reddit is more uncasual. You know what I mean? We're talking about somebody outside.
Well, it's
of
very
the
hard
Smite
to get.
community.
It's very
Someone
hard
that
to
doesn't know
get
this
feedback
show
from like
exists.
the real casual, right?
Right.
That's very hard to do, because
I mean,
by definition,
not
they're not
really
going to give
if you have-
feedback.
Not if you have, like, as far as Hi-Rez Studios is concerned, it's not difficult. It's in there, like, they can see what people are doing.
Oh yeah. You can't find like You're not going to get someone like the ideal casual to respond to a survey. Because by definition, like who we are talking about when we say casual, we are not talking about the people who respond to surveys.
Right, but when you create a game, like Hi-Rez has access to be able to see.
Yeah,
that
you can see
the
like how
majority
many
of
people are
players
playing.
played Conquest 3 times and then never went back to it.
Yeah,
they do have that information.
yeah, totally.
So I mean, like that's.
Yeah, I mean,
that's-
in the end, like, I think these sort of changes are good, and I think there are some really good directions on this patch. I just think they didn't. There were a lot of things that were not seen coming. A lot.
Or maybe Double Jungle was the developer's intent from the get-go.
No, I don't think so.
You have no idea. Or maybe Double Jungle isn't even the optimal path.
It might not be. Either way, it's going to be something involving farming. I can tell you that much. It's very farming.
Pretty much. Anyway, that's a lot of what the casual impact on it. We'll talk a little bit more next week about the professionals' impact on both, just like this episode, both this patch specifically and huge overhaul patches like this one, whether it's cool in theory or in practice or anything in between. We're going to put it up on youtube.com/Kretuhtuh, and this is one of those old cliches that everybody hates. Like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget.
Yeah.
But seriously, this is one of our more engaging conversation episodes, and it's just two of us on camera, but there's 1,000 of you in chat. I want to know what the fuck you're thinking. I want to know how, because you guys are this... Krett and I are sort of the top end.
Let's also start a Reddit thread. Let's also start a Reddit thread and just talk about it. So you're going to have to do that, because I can't.
So Krett and I are the top end people that literally live our life in this game. The casual players aren't here. You guys are that mid chunk. You're the actual burger in the hamburger. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. Talk in the chat, talk in the Reddit thread, talk on the YouTube video. That's what we want to hear. And we'll come back next week, discuss a couple of the higher points, and we'll talk about how big patches like this impact the pro scene and whether that's good or bad. Thanks a lot for joining us this week, guys. Really, really appreciate it. We'll catch you next week, Tuesday at 5, right here on twitch.tv/fswag.
Peace.
Peace.